major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Monday, May 11th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. A hopeful sign that we're on the right track to beating COVID-19. No new deaths have been reported in San Diego County since Friday. However, there are 139 new cases, pushing the total past 5,000. Some local leaders are pushing for Governor Gavin Newsom to give them the authority to reopen more parts of the economy as they see fit. KPBS reporter Andrew Bowen has more.
With California's budget deficit estimated at more than $50 billion, Newsom announced today the Western States Pact, a collaboration with Oregon, Washington, Nevada, and Colorado, was asking the federal government for $1 trillion in aid. He says the budgetary challenges are so much bigger than any one state, county, or city.
But they directly impact public safety, our firefighters, our police officers, our first responders. They directly impact public education and our teachers. They directly impact public health and our ability for counties to support their public health systems.
Last Friday, Newsom allowed counties to reopen some retail and supply chain businesses, but the state's order does not allow businesses like dine-in restaurants and offices to reopen until their county has seen 0 COVID-19 deaths for 2 weeks. County Supervisor Greg Cox co-signed a letter to Newsom today saying that's unrealistic.
Any large urban county probably could never meet that for the foreseeable future, and so we hope he'll take a look at that and reconsider. We know that he's going to be making some more announcements this week, and perhaps that'll be included in his future announcements. Even
still, county officials agree the reopening must be slow so they can measure the impacts of each adjustment. Businesses that involve packing people indoors for extended periods of time, think movie theaters or gyms, present the highest risk and will probably be last to reopen.
But we ask for the public's continued help because the worst thing we could do as a region is have too many folks open too quickly, create a surge and a huge uptick in what we're doing, and then be in the really devastating situation of having to reimpose or reclose things.
The pleas for patience have become a daily routine for health officials who fear the longer the shutdown lasts, the harder it will be to ensure people are taking the pandemic seriously. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
A gym owner in North County is fighting to reopen and save his businesses, and he's willing to risk arrest to do it. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman says a local council member is asking others to join them.
Time to take a peaceful stand, and if you have to open to survive, and you share the same convictions of my letter, then I encourage them to do so.
Oceanside City Council member Christopher Rodriguez says enough is enough.
We want to protect public safety, but we have to survive. And there's no other choice but to open and to provide.
What's up, man? With many businesses closed for more than a month, the council member put out a letter over the weekend telling owners to reopen if they feel comfortable.
I felt like finally someone is coming out and speaking for the small businesses.
Lou Uridel owns Metroflex Gym in Oceanside. He was excited to see someone standing up for small business owners. He reopened on Sunday, but police told him he had to close. When he refused, he was cited. Uridel says for many of his members, the gym is a place that helps maintain their mental health.
We've had members that are suicidal, members that are former drug addicts that have gone through extreme health conditions, and also active duty and veteran with PTSD. This is their form of therapy.
In addition to supporting his members, Uridel says he needs to provide for his family.
I have trainers here, I have staff. Everyone's got to make money, everyone's got to survive.
People here say this is not about trying to be rebellious, this is simply about survival, putting food on their family's table. But their want to reopen so quickly just this week does go against their current county health and state recommendations.
If you get a citation, I want to be there if I can. If you get arrested, I'll raise my hand. I'll be the first to get arrested.
The mayor of Oceanside says no council member has the authority to direct businesses to violate health orders, and everyone must follow the rules. The governor says gyms like Metroflex will reopen under Phase 3 of the state's plan to ease restrictions. He says it might not even be a month before that happens, but Metroflex is already planning a Wednesday reopening.
We're opening Wednesday because Chris is having a ton of business in Oceanside. I think he said over 100 businesses in Oceanside open by then. And we're going to be one of those businesses. We're going to stay united with Chris.
Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Healthcare workers gathered today to protest over 200 layoffs at Palomar Health.
That we would be reinstated. We want to go back to work. It's our passion to work and to work with the people of this community.
83 registered nurses and 121 other workers have lost their jobs. The union is delivering a letter to hospital executives demanding Palomar Health CEO Diane Hansen's contract be canceled.
Took a vote of confidence or no confidence with our caregivers and our registered nurses. And we had an overwhelming response, and all have lost confidence that she can guide us through this pandemic and through this crisis that our community is facing currently.
Palomar Health says it had to cut the positions because of a 40 to 70% decrease in patient visits. Today, UC San Diego became the first university to start mass testing students for COVID-19. Students are picking up nasal swabs to self-administer the test, then dropping it off in a collection box. Anyone who tests positive will be contacted, along with anyone they may have infected. Eventually, there could be monthly tests for all 65,000 students, staff, and faculty. The goal is to resume in-person classes in September. The man who wore a Ku Klux Klan hood to a Santee grocery store will not face charges. The sheriff's department says it interrogated the man. He told deputies he was frustrated about the coronavirus and that wearing the hood was not intended to be a racial statement. He said it was a mask and it was stupid. The sheriff's department called the man's behavior despicable and warned others against it. The virus continues to spread in San Diego's South Bay, where the county's most vulnerable communities live. iNewsSource and KPBS have created an interactive map showing the breakdown by neighborhood. Here's iNewsSource reporter Brad Racino.
This map deals specifically with what are called social vulnerabilities. These are non-health related factors that put populations at risk, such as having low levels of income, poor transportation options, and high concentrations of minorities. You'll see that South Bay, where COVID-19 cases are still surging, is considered highly vulnerable. If you click on a location, up pops a box showing the predominant race along with 4 social vulnerability categories. The categories have scores ranging from 0 to 1, 1 being the highest possible. The box also shows the overall vulnerability score. Corinne McDaniels-Davidson is the director of the Institute for Public Health at San Diego State University.
We know that in disasters, the people on the margins of society are often the most impacted. And what I mean by margins of society are those of limited means or low socioeconomic status, older adults, and racial and ethnic minorities.
The county has said it's keeping an eye on the South Bay, but health officials and citizens there are worried the government's move to ease restrictions is coming too soon, and another surge may be on its way. For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource reporter Brad Racino.
To explore the map, go to inewssource.org. iNewsSource is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. Major League Baseball could be back by 4th of July weekend, but without any fans in the stands. That's according to reporting by the Associated Press. Owners have reportedly approved a plan to present the Players Union. Each team would play about 82 regular season games, most against opponents in its own division. Postseason play would be expanded to 14 clubs by doubling wild cards in each league. After 2 months closed, the Viejas Casino and Resort in Alpine plans to reopen on May 18th. Everyone in the casino will be required to wear facial coverings. Viejas installed hand sanitizers throughout and signs reminding guests of social distancing guidelines. The casino will be closed between 3 a.m. and 7 a.m. for deep cleaning every single day. A new report suggests California's tourism industry is in for a lot of pain in coming months. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson says San Diego will not escape the damage done by the coronavirus pandemic.
A report commissioned by the state's nonprofit tourism agency, Visit California, predicts the state could lose $72 billion in visitor spending this year. The study finds the pandemic has erased 10 years of growth in visitor spending, state and local tax revenue, and job creation. The impact will touch a lot of businesses.
They include the hotel motel industry. It includes the restaurant industry, for instance. It also includes some of the transportation, like Uber and people to get people around. Entertainment, theme parks, those type of things are going to have the most problems recovering.
The Tourism Economics Report concludes California will lose 613,000 jobs in tourism by the end of the month, cutting the economic sector's workforce in half. How quickly those tourism jobs come back will impact other economic sectors. Major says permanent losses in tourism would have a devastating ripple effect.
If that industry doesn't come back, then there is a good chance that the hotel motels won't need as many employees. That restaurants, if they have social distancing and can only have half as many tables, they may not need as many servers or as many line cooks. And so, those restaurants might hire back 50% or 75% of the staff that they had before.
The tourism industry was growing at an annual rate of more than 3% over the last 10 years. The coronavirus wiped out all those gains in just 2 months. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
San Diego State University is hosting a virtual commencement celebration to honor the class of 2020. It's set for noon this Saturday, May 16th. Graduates can tune in to the live stream on SDSU's website or Facebook. Alumni are welcome to watch as well. It won't be a formal ceremony with name reading, but will feature several guests and notable alumni and a virtual tassel change. In-person ceremonies will be held in December and May of 2021, depending on health orders then. And we're following all of the latest coronavirus developments for you at kpbs.org. Click on the Tracking COVID-19 link on our homepage and you'll be taken to a page with all of our recent reports. After last week's heat wave, temperatures are cooling off. Mark Mancuso has your forecast.
Cooler conditions continue throughout the week, but it does look like a warming trend probably returning, say, Friday into next Saturday. Taking a look at our weather headlines for you. Well, we have a strong onshore flow this week, and that means persistent coastal clouds, areas of fog, especially in the morning hours. Strong gusty winds, we'll find those in the mountains and the desert areas. So here's our weather pattern. We have this trough this week, and with the trough, we have the onshore flow and the cooler conditions with temperatures closer to the averages. For tonight, we'll see the clouds thickening up. We get you to the coast and over towards the interior valleys here. We'll have that overcast, and we also have some areas of fog. Temperatures tonight dropping to 56 Oceanside, San Diego, 62 El Cajon at 56, Borrego Springs, mild 63, Mount Laguna's at 44. Now for Tuesday, well, we saw this cool pattern here, the onshore flow, and we will see some gusty winds out here from the mountains and into the deserts. As we take a look at our temperatures, well, you can see they're in the low 70s in Oceanside, San Diego 73. Plenty of clouds, a little bit of drizzle out there too. Interior sections, Borrego Springs at 87, Mount Laguna 59. And as we take a look ahead at the future, well, it does look like we'll see our pattern continue with clouds and then some afternoon sunshine. And the temperatures will be quite comfortable, hovering in the low to mid 70s. As we take you into the interior sections for you, well, we'll be looking at some clouds in the morning hours, but then sunshine. And notice temperature is starting to rise here for the end of the week across the mountains. Comfortably cool and then a little bit milder. And here in the deserts, temperatures will be warming up Friday into Saturday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
This week, nearly every state started to relax restrictions aimed to stop the spread of coronavirus. But the way states reopen can be complicated and controversial. Karen Kafa explains.
Welcome to Bristol, the birthplace of country music. This one town sits in 2 states, Tennessee and Virginia, 2 places with different schedules to reopen amid the COVID pandemic.
You have a restaurant who can look out the window, and 30 yards across the street, there are people walking into businesses, dining, shopping, and so that's a challenge.
Some business owners want states like Virginia to open on a regional basis. In Bristol, that would prevent restaurants on the same street from having different restrictions.
It's tough because I can see the Tennessee side. I can see them. So if there's a virus over there, it's over here.
In South Dakota,
have you traveled to or from an area reported of COVID-19 cases?
The Cheyenne River Sioux tribe feels the state is opening too soon. They set up checkpoints along highways meant to track the virus and stop the spread.
No fever, cough, fatigue, shortness of breath?
No, don't have any of those things.
South Dakota's governor demands these roadblocks come down, but the tribe refuses.
This virus doesn't travel. It's the people with the virus that travel.
In Washington, the clash between restarting economies and protecting health is on full display as President Trump presses more states to reopen. Top members of the administration's task force have gone into some form of quarantine, including the heads of the CDC, FDA, and the nation's top infectious disease specialist, Anthony Fauci. Now, staff is conducting contact tracing to determine how coronavirus got inside the White House. In Washington, Karen Kafa, KPBS News.
Local election officials say most people are already voting by mail. It's in-person voting during a pandemic that raises more questions.
To balance this out, the public access component of it with the ability to even carry on the election, because if we cannot carry on the election, but we are now required to have this in-person site that is out there, it may end up disenfranchising voters, and that's the last thing we want to do here.
County Registrar Michael Vu is awaiting details from the state on how many voting centers will be required in the fall. The answers will determine staffing and the capacity to serve a higher turnout. Vu says 70% of the ballots cast in the March primary were by mail. The first military lab to test for COVID-19 was in San Diego. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh says it still took weeks before the first test samples arrived, part of the lessons learned from the outbreak.
The CDC authorized the Naval Health Research Center on Point Loma to begin testing for the coronavirus on February 12th. It would take another 2 weeks before military installations in Southern California would begin sending actual samples, says Chris Meyer, the director of infectious diseases.
We do not normally receive patient samples from the hospital. We are collecting them ourselves for surveillance. So we're not normally, like, the whole process of the hospitals directly submitting samples to us and those results going into the medical record was a new process for both of us.
Meyer says the early guidelines from the CDC were also very restrictive on who should be tested, which led to fewer people actually being tested.
Specific travel to Wuhan, China, and other limitations, or at least contact with someone that met the COVID definition. And at the time, there were no cases in San Diego, so meeting that narrow case definition may have been problematic in the beginning.
Once samples arrived, the San Diego-based lab soon found their first positive test case. The CDC authorized the San Diego-based Navy lab to be the first military lab to test for COVID-19 because the lab played a key role in the last pandemic. NHRC actually discovered the first cases of the 2009 swine flu, which was found in San Diego County. Myers and other NHRC leaders would not say how many positive test cases there have been among the military in the region. The lab is testing 160 cases a day. Myers says so far the number of cases peaked last month and is slowly falling. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
There are thousands of animals at zoos and aquariums across San Diego, and that includes the Birch Aquarium, where KPBS science and technology reporter Shalina Chatlani says staff have shifted their work routines to keep the animals safe and alive during the coronavirus pandemic.
Oh man, hi everyone! Good morning from Birch Aquarium.
Kaylin Scully of the Birch Aquarium introduces a recent Facebook live chat video with one of the aquarists who works with animals. The guest experience is part of the job at the aquarium. These live chats with video of marine life and aquarist interviews is one way the team has adapted since the onset of coronavirus, among other ways, says Scully.
It's requiring a lot of creative solutions when it comes to not only what we need to do for extra care for these animals, but also how to communicate with the team in new ways, how to interact with colleagues that we work with at other zoos and aquariums around the country. And then also, you know, what are we going to do if we need to bring the vet?
They've also stockpiled months of seafood to feed the animals, and the team has been split up to avoid contact, says Jennifer Moffat, lead aquarist.
There's a lot of stress for everybody, right? The virus, the pandemic as a whole, and then you change schedules. And they're used to working with other people and other teams that are at the, you know, facility, and, you know, education and exhibits and visitor services, and none of those folks are present. It's also kind of like a shining moment for them too, because they're able to continue with their job and they're able to continue to tell stories.
Moffat says the 6,000 animals at Birch Aquarium are still getting their daily care and are thriving, though some are definitely missing the guests. Shalina Chatlani, KPBS News.
Business is booming at the Tuna Dockside Harbor Market in downtown. On Saturday, hundreds of people lined up to buy fresh seafood. With grocery stores packed, many told us it was an even better opportunity to come to the market and stock up. Luis Gomez says he's come here 6 weekends in a row since the shutdown.
Fresher, cheaper, easier, and because we weren't able to fish our own fish right now. So.
Oh, why aren't you able to fish?
Because the commercial sporting boats, because of the COVID's going on, they're not allowing, you can't have 72 people on one boat.
And the fishermen say most of their profits normally come from sales to restaurants. But because of the shutdown, they are selling at the market instead. If you want to experience the magic of Disney, mark your calendars right now for July. That is the earliest that Disney World in Florida will start taking reservations. Today, Shanghai Disneyland became the first Disney theme park to welcome guests back. David Culver takes us behind the scenes.
Welcome into Shanghai Disneyland, where we are getting a sneak peek of what the new operations are going to look like for this park and reopening 3.5 months after they had to shut down because of the novel coronavirus outbreak here in China. Now, normally, when you're in the park as they reopen, you're going to have to wear a mask. We're able to take ours off because the crowd isn't in just yet. But as you can see, the preparations are underway. They've used this time to rethink how they're going to have people coming in safely, keeping that social distance, and avoiding any sort of contact, not only with each other, but also with cast members. So it's going to have things looking a little bit differently. I'm going to take you outside the park to show you how we got in with Senior Vice President of Operations, Andrew Bolstein.
We ask our guests to do a few things now differently than before. One is we ask every one of our guests to have temperature screening as they arrive here at the resort. We also ask them to show their QR code, which is a Shanghai-specific health code. We put a little more structured decaling and markers in place. So these are very clear. Don't stand here. Yeah. And then you stand in the blank space in between. As always, we require government ID to redeem your tickets at the entrance, but we're also going to be capturing government ID information for every guest that comes into the park, not just one per party, as part of the traceability measures that we have in place now per the government guidelines.
Give us an idea, I mean, as we're walking through, what folks will notice that's different. I mean, one thing that stands out to me is constant sanitation.
Yes. So we have a very dedicated team of custodial cleaners that we've even increased the numbers of those throughout the park that are constantly wiping down all the surfaces.
And noticing that parade go by, obviously a distance, but yes, you can still see the characters.
Yes.
Not the big hug and high fives, right?
Exactly. More of a selfie moment and take the photos, but again, it gives the guests that ability to have that emotional moment and that connection.
As you're walking along the line here, you'll notice the places you can stop and the places you need to keep a distance. And then eventually you make it to the attraction. Notice this, I want to point this out. As I go into number 1, normally you have number 2 to go into. They've got it roped off. Stepping off the ride, the new normal. And they've got several more along the way out.
Ask for the guest's understanding that for your health and safety, the table's unavailable. So basically we're asking the guests not to sit here, sit there, and again, it creates kind of that separation between all the different parties.
Safe spacing even for the performances. This is one of the stages. Look here in the crowd. Pick a box. That's where you and your family unit will stand, keeping that distance.
We'll be able to strike that right balance between the safety and health and confidence side, and then the magic that we're able to deliver every day.
Do you feel in many ways that not only other parts of the company are looking here and other parks hopefully going to be reopening, but maybe even other companies saying, let me see how they're doing it. Maybe this could help us reopen too.
Everywhere's a little bit different though. There's different regulations, there's different environments, people are at different phases of the epidemic. But I think what we have can be a model, hopefully some inspiration for them, and they'll adapt it for what their local conditions are. Same thing with the other operators around the world. We communicate and we share. In this type of environment where we want to focus on safety and health, that's an area we all share together.
And that was David Culver reporting. An update now on our top story. No new deaths from COVID-19 have been reported in San Diego County since Friday. At the same time, there are 139 new cases, pushing the total past 5,000. San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer and County Supervisor Bill Cox wrote a letter asking the mayor to give local leaders authority to reopen more parts of the economy as they see fit. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.